I'm going to just really talk briefly about the Proud Boys. Other comrades can chime in. More comrades have had more personal dealings with them. I think one of the pieces that is really important is that the Proud Boys is global. It's Canadian, but Galvin McGuinness is from Canada to begin with. But it's in Australia and in the U.S. as the places. The piece of also that's really important about the Proud Boys is that that Galvin McGuinness has been, shrouded as the forefather of hipster culture. And when we think of, go ahead, Hiss. When we think of hipster culture, and regardless of, and I want to be really clear about this too, about what people feel about hipster culture, whether that be, with the style of people dressing. There's a lot about his mustache, all kinds of things. We can talk about what hipster culture is. But at the essence of what hipster culture is about gentrification.
Yes. Yes.
And we want to just be really clear about it. That the Proud Boys are urban. That it's not, and we can talk about the history. I don't want to talk for very long, but we can talk about the history of ARA. Someone help me for 2 seconds. Anti-racist action that we think about in the Midwest. That we think about when we did. Who are the folks that had that great action where they went in someplace in the Michigan, I believe, right?
No, it was in Illinois.
Outside
of Chicago.
Outside of Chicago, where there was a racist meeting happening at a diner, and they came and they this is Foley, right? These are the. Oh, please help. Sorry, we wrote about it.
Sharks? Are you talking about sharks? Skinheads against racial prejudice?
No. Please forgive me. I'm going back in my brain. I didn't prepare this part of the talk. I apologize.
They're based in Indiana, though.
But they're based in Indiana. They went to a racist meeting that was happening in a diner. They found out about it and went in and shut down the meeting. And faced charges and defended. And literally, this was hand-to-hand combat. That they were fighting the right. And that's what we kind of think of and hear about when we think about, a lot of times, it's out in rural parts in the South. We could talk about upstate New York. I'm from, quote-unquote, so-called, New England, and where there's so many, fascist, right-wing Klan, the Sons of Miles Standish is who we fought during the days of when we were fighting around the Plymouth 25. These are the paramilitary groups that we think of. Jersey, I could just keep going and going. Oh my goodness, we talked of Washington State. That's what we think of. What the Proud Boys are an urban, formation. That they are more geared to cities. Brooklyn, and we talk about, and again. There's rumors. I tried to look up it online. Maybe other comrades know better. But there's a understanding that Galvin McGuinness has now migrated and is located himself to Brooklyn, New York. There are folks that believe that he lives in Greenpoint. But again, that there has always been and I don't want to put a misnomer, but a racist element. It has also been in Greenpoint, particularly in the Polish communities there.
Yes.
A more right-wing. What did you say?
He lives in Williamsburg, and when someone asked him how he felt about that, he said, "At least I'm not around the N-words and Puerto Ricans."
So thank you for that, Kayla. We appreciate that intervention. So we found where he lives. This is Williamsburg. But with the understanding, and again, rumors of places that have become, and let's talk about gentrification, that Williamsburg has been a stronghold of Puerto Rican community.
Yes.
For decades. It is a bastion of Puerto Rican, and I want to say left communities. That when I remember when I first moved to New York in the 90s, El Puente and other groups were based out of Williamsburg. Movements. We had sister organizations when I was growing up with Free My People that were based in Williamsburg. It was the place to be. It was also I'm just going to say it was also the party place. It was black and brown clubs. That we partied in Williamsburg. It was not only live family community, but it was also the place of nightlife. There's the only African American jazz club actually that we've had a fundraiser there for Equality for Flappers is in Williamsburg. It's this is the history of Williamsburg. But we now know that Williamsburg, Bushwick in particular are losing their Latinx communities. We're talking about neighborhoods like Bedford-Stuyvesant or Harlem are losing their black communities, and they're becoming less and less. Not only just multinational, but really, truthfully, more white, more affluent. And that's what that is part of what the Proud Boys stand for. The other piece about it is, and this is important, it's something like back to like, let's talk about the Minutemen. What is the horrible, it's the Minutemen, what's the other group that does the border stuff in Texas? Anyway, the reason why I wanted to raise this, and we're all going like, which right-wing group are you referring to? There's just so many. The reason why I say this is because there's also the phenomenon that they're not all white. And this is a really important thing, and why I raised the Minutemen and this the other horrible border patrol group that's also migrant, is that they are multinational. I mean, they're majority white. Let's not get it. Let's not play around. They're majority white, but you do see like there was a moment at the demonstration that there were two young youth of color who were with the Proud Boys.
Well, you know why that is, right?
Well, just let me finish. Yes, and this is let's go there about it's because. Bob, the main thing about the Proud Boys, again, to my knowledge, 2015 is when they kind of founded. The piece of it is also about gender oppression, and let's just talk about that. There's a reason why this is a men's group. This is a group that not only is anti-migrant, anti-black, particularly anti-Muslim, but they're also anti-woman. And they're anti-LGBTQ. And from what I understand, please forgive me, I don't know that much, but there's a song from Aladdin, the movie Aladdin that is about make your mother proud or make something boy proud, something like that they took. They took it because it was sort of an ode to my mother, sort of raising up women, and they took it and they thought, that's sappy, that's ridiculous. And they were like, so they coined it out of the song. This is what it said, or what Galvin McGinnis has said. It's sort of taking back the sappy sentiment that they look at in a sexist way as being affiliated with women, and we're Proud Boys. We're proud to be men. We're proud of Western culture. We're proud of Western ideas. And again, then we could talk about rape apologists. We could talk about all of the part of that culture that is so about male dominance. And this is part of the essence of them. All right, let's fast forward. So with all this said, about the Proud Boys, and also I think it's also the other piece I just want to talk about dress too, that I think is a really important thing. They want to distance themselves from what we look at as white supremacist groups and Ku Klux Klan and all of that kind of stuff. So they've adopted very urban, like dress. Particularly, what is the designer? Fred Perry. Who has denounced them, but again, Fred Perry's clothes has always been I was about to say, he can denounce them all he wants to, but he has been connected to skinheads for a long time. So let's be real. His clothing has already been connected to skinheads. So it's that thing that he's denounced it. But that they are in sort of plain sight, that they could wear these shirts and kind of be out in the world in this way and sort of say oh no, it's almost like that's my father's racism over there that looks in this very sort of fascist kind of way. We're kind of cool and hip and hipster, and again, we're just about men's culture. We're just about our misogyny looks different, whatever. Our racism looks at it. Look, we got black and brown people. And again, we are clear, and this is important, that again, when we talk about the violence in Charlottesville, when we talk about the violence that happened on October 12th, this is the other piece of it. They are absolutely a violent. I love that in their press release we call them a gang. The same way that we talk about the police. This is the other setting. They are a fascist organization that were allowed to walk the streets of New York City, doing all kinds of racist signals, all kinds of, being able to sort of swing around the American flag. Gavin McGinnis got to swing around a sword. Right. So let's talk about just quick, and I'll wrap up with this. Say it again.
Oh. Yeah, he was swinging around a sword.
Swinging around. So on October 12th, there was a meeting at the Republican club.
Whatever, who cares? One of them.
Doesn't matter.
So at the Fascist Republic Club, and it was commemorating this heinous murder of a Japanese socialist against a Japanese racist nationalist, and so the whole point was to reenact this. Yes. This is why he brought the sword, was to reenact this incredible racist, and I should say fascist murder by a Japanese fascist against a Japanese socialist. And again, we could talk about the whole thing about just that Gavin McGinnis thought this was. I mean, I want to be really clear. The reenactment was with an Asian member of the Proud Boys that allowed himself to do this reenactment with Gavin McGinnis stabbing him. Let's just be real. That's real. With all of that said, so the day before, in what was gloriously wonderful, the Republican, headquarters office all of a sudden was vandalized. Who knows? There were A's. There were A's on the front door. There was, I guess, a manifesto left. Things were broken, but that happened. The police went on high alert. And again, as the 19th precinct?
Yes. Yeah.
19th precinct on the Upper East Side came and made sure that there was as many cops as possible to protect the fascists. I want to also be really clear. There's so much about there was this brawl, there was all of this stuff. I'm going to be honest, I did not witness any of that kind of stuff happening. I did witness that when, first and foremost, there were several attacks by the Proud Boys on anti-racist protesters, and really I want to even say people, just in general. Their presence in the city was exactly that, a violent attack on every single New Yorker that believes that we shouldn't have fascists in the city in the first place. So that's the first and foremost thing. There were multiple times that people were told that people were attacked, anti-racists were attacked, and the police did nothing. We watched one guy who we knew had punched and assaulted someone. The police did nothing, and they kept sort of shaking hands with him and doing their thing with him. When they let the Proud Boys out, they allowed them to march down the street, in a formation, like a march, and kind of unleash them into the city, which was its own incredible thing. To watch them actually allow this racist march to take place in the middle of Manhattan. The police then blocked us and kept us from following them. At one point in time, though, they did catch up with folks that were by themselves, and this is the assault that probably, we would see, and there were anti-LGBT slurs and all of that happened. The other thing that happened that I think is, the other thing that happened that I also think is important, and again going back to, when we think about Saeed Vassal, who, had a pipe in his hand, when we think about Amadou Diallo, who had a wallet in his hand, when we think about Eric Garner, that was doing nothing but selling some cigarettes, allegedly, are choked to death, are shot to death 41 times, they score up, roll up, shoot, and ask no questions. But that Gavin McGinnis could come out of there in broad sight of everyone. There were people on the sidewalk that were just astonished that he could wave this sword in the air, and that the police literally formed a formation right around him and allowed that to happen. And there's an understanding that in black and brown neighborhoods, that something like my cell phone could get me murdered.
Right.
But a samurai sword being waved like this is completely loud and protected. And people saw it. I was standing next to a man who was just walking down the street. He was like, "Oh my God," white man. He was just, "Oh my God, this is happening." That they're allowed to brandish this weapon in front of all of us. Last and not least, what I do think is important, and why I think it's so important that the videos have gone viral as they did, is that we are in this critical moment. I'm going to have Taryn, who is going to talk more about the press conference. That what was amazing and badass is that the mayor of New York had to respond. of why the police did nothing and allowed these violent attacks to happen and unleashed the Proud Boys onto the community. Cuomo had to answer. Why did this happen? And is there an investigation, their phony investigation? The NYPD is now saying, we have 9 Proud Boys that we're looking for. You know, which, and Antifa, to their credit, was like, well, here they are. And this is where they live. And here are their addresses. We have the information. They still haven't been arrested, am I correct? They have not been arrested.
No, they haven't.
They have not been arrested. But the movement, like, on Monday was like, well, here they are. Here they are. And here where they were at Charlottesville. And here they were at this other place. And you know what? They're getting ice cream right now. If you hurry up, you can get them. And that's a reality. That this phony baloney kind of like, oh, whoa. But with the understanding that in our communities on a day-to-day basis, we feel the pressure and the onslaught of the state, that we live in police occupations every single day, that we can't even hold up our cell phone, we can't walk down the street. NYCHA residents can't smoke in their buildings right now. I mean, we could just talk about or they be evicted. The way that we are living and breathing in our neighborhoods every single day, but white supremacists can do whatever they want, say whatever they want, behave wherever they want, and the state. I'm going to quote Nate for 2 seconds, who said something. We had a conversation. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. About it was talking about you know, and it's important that we have classes. It's important that we study. This is fundamentally part of, you know, as a Marxist-Leninist tendency. This is what we need. We need to study. But the other piece of it is the Leninism. It's the practical application. And that's what I think is what is important about what just happened, is about the fact that if you don't understand the state, go into this demonstration, made it abundantly clear. When we chanted the cops and the Klan go hand in hand, people in the neighborhood are like, oh, well, then we see it.
Yeah. Yep.
They're getting an escort. That we were doing jail support for 3 activists that got arrested, and the police locked down the blocks. Why? Because there were white supremacists that they need to protect inside. They put them in a wagon. I don't think they had cuffs on, am I correct? They didn't have cuffs. They were probably getting a ride home.
Yeah, right.
Getting a ride home.
For free.
Getting a burger. That's right.
Yeah, Burger King.
So I'll wrap up with this. There's a very important press conference coming up on tomorrow, 6:30. Taryn will tell you more about it. There is a statement that has been done. We really do feel like this is an opportunity right now. There is national tension. Oh, I even mentioned Fox News, who tried to like bait it out that like, oh yes, you know, the anti-Tifa was out there and they were fighting the Proud Boys, and they got pushed back. National tension of like, no, I'm so sorry. It was the Proud Boys that instigated it. Their racist, fascist self are the ones that were violent. And the movement, or whatever we do, is just self-defense. But more importantly, that we need to do away with any formation that threatens, endangers people and their everyday lives, that supports white supremacy and rape culture and the oppression of women and LGBT people, that no migrant should be afraid in New York City to walk the streets. And that we need to continue to hold, the state accountable until it's gone, until it evaporates, until we do away with it, until it's gone, and we have socialism. Anyway, comrades, open the